Look at the crowd. I don't even know how many because I can't see, but I do know that over 380 registered. If anyone still thinks the lymphatic system is a niche, a quiet corner of medicine, take a look around. This is what a movement looks like. I'm Kimberly Steele, Program Manager at ARPA-H, and this is the second installment of our Community Conversation series. We launched in March with the Light teams, and today the spotlight is on our Glide teams. You'll hear from the National Commission of Lymphatic Diseases, meet all of our 8 Glide discovery duos, and get a look at where this whole field is headed. But first, a few housekeeping details. You are all on mute, unlike our teams that were talking. Apologies. So please use the chat for comments and drop any questions that you may have in the question and answer box. We'll get to as many as we can at the end of this session. And if you have any trouble hearing us, check your audio settings. Today's session is being recorded, so you'll be able to revisit and share it afterwards. Now, here's the thing. None of this starts with me. It starts with a leader whose belief helped make all of this possible. And so over to you, Dr. Fadul, our ARPA-H's Chief Medical Officer.
Thanks, Kim. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely delighted to join you here today for our From Invisible to Inevitable, the community conversation around lymphatic health. Really deep thank you to the patients, the caregivers, advocates, clinicians, the researchers, the performers, everyone that's here today. You are what makes this community. And this conversation, it really reflects something that's deeply important to us at ARPA-H, that health breakthroughs, they shouldn't be designed around people, rather they should be designed with people. And before I begin talking about these programs, I do want to begin by recognizing Dr. Kimberly Steele and her amazing team. Kim's leadership has honestly been very central to shaping the Light and Glide program and to advancing ARPA-H's broader vision around what we're doing for lymphatic medicine. And for those of you who know Kim, you know what I'm saying is 100,000% true. She brings a very rare and powerful combination of clinical expertise, scientific rigor, a deep personal commitment, and a connection to the patient and caregiver communities that you don't often see. And it shows, and her team has worked with tremendous urgency and care to bring together this diverse group of researchers, patients, caregivers, everyone around this shared goal of moving promising ideas towards a real world impact. And so on behalf of ARPA-H, I want to thank you, Kim, and your amazing team for your vision, your persistence, and your commitment to keeping patients at the center of this work. I know everyone's muted, but I'm gonna clap for you, so at least you can hear it from me. For those of you who don't know, at ARPA-H, our mission is to tackle health challenges that are candidly too big or too complex, or many times too overlooked, such as lymphatics, for traditional approaches alone. And we are built to move with urgency, to take smart risks, and we're built to bring together communities that oftentimes don't always sit at the same table together, right? And that's exactly this group of patients, scientists, clinicians, entrepreneurs, investors, payers, care delivery partners, you name it. Like, they're all generally pretty disparate. We have this superpower of convening, bringing them all together. And Glide is a very powerful example of that model in action. And when you think about our programs, they're not simply about funding research. We pride ourselves in making the impossible inevitable. We care about whether a solution can reach people. We care about whether it can be used in real clinical settings for real patients, and whether it's affordable and accessible and meaningful to the people and the families that it's intended to serve. And that's why patient engagement, it's not a nice to have, like a tick box for us in this work. It is absolutely central to how ARPA-H defines success. And part and parcel with that, one of the most exciting parts about the Light and Glide programs is the discovery duo model. So for those of you who don't know, each performer team includes a discovery duo, which is a very unique pairing of early career investigators with a patient or caregiver ambassador. And this model is designed to put the patient and caregiver perspectives directly into the research and development process from day one, not an afterthought after the technology has already been built. And this model is by design to capture something that we know to be true in medicine, which is that lived experience is in fact its own expertise. And patients, caregivers, they will tell you, they understand the barriers that frankly don't show up in protocols or textbooks. And they understand the burden of a fragmented care system, the costs associated with it, the logistic nightmares that occur, the stigma, right? The uncertainty, and just the day-to-day living with the condition. And that actually can inform researchers. It helps you ask better questions, like, is this outcome meaningful? Is this intervention even usable, right? Would this work for your family outside of a specific specialty center for care? Or what would actually make you trust this intervention, this technology? These questions, they're essential. If we actually want breakthroughs that can actually change lives, you have to ask these meaningful questions. And this goes beyond technology and the research. This is also about trust. Across healthcare research, trust is built when communities have a voice in how their solutions are created. And that's not always been the case in healthcare. I could unfortunately give you many examples of when that's not been the case. And this discovery duo model ensures that patients, caregivers, they're not passive recipients of the innovation. They're actually partners in shaping it. And that's very much aligned with ARPA-H's broader approach, right? That our programs are milestone driven, they're ambitious, and they're very focused on outcomes. But as I just said, the technical milestones alone, they're not enough. We absolutely have to ask, will this improve care? Will this reduce the burden? Will this be accessible beyond a handful of centers? Is it something that not just the clinicians, but the patients can trust, right? And is this going to pull in communities that historically have been left behind? This work, it gives us the opportunity to answer these questions in partnership with the people who are most affected by them. So to that end, I actually want to especially recognize the patient and caregiver ambassadors who are joining this effort, because it's your voices that bring the urgency, and and your experiences are the ones that actually bring the clarity, that sharpen our focus on the research side. And your partnership, it keeps us grounded in like what actually matters the most. And so, when I think about the contributions that you bring to ARPA-H and to the performer teams, it's not only helping us understand what's scientifically possible, but what's practically valuable and meaningful on a human basis. So the other side of that duo is the early career investigators. I would love to recognize them in the crowd, because you, my friends, are part of a new generation of researchers that are being trained to innovate in a very different way. You are not only learning from the data and the models and the experiments, but from the people whose lives your work is actually meant to improve, your end users, your end recipients. And that combination of scientific rigor plus the lived experience that I was talking about before, that's exactly the kind of culture ARPA-H wants to encourage, right? These programs, they demonstrate how ARPA-H thinks about building fields, not just individual projects. We are building a field, a movement. Kim Steele is building a movement. I see you nodding over there, Kim. Together with Light and Glide, we're helping create this momentum around an area of medicine with, frankly, enormous potential, and one that has been overlooked for far too long, right? And together, they represent a larger ARPA-H vision, which is identify a major gap in healthcare and then bring together the best people across the damn planet, including the patients from the start, and drive toward tools that can actually change clinical practice, not in 30 years, in 3 years, right? So today is more than a webinar, all right? It's an invitation to build a community around this work. We have pulled the best and the brightest and the most motivated to solve these problems. You're all in one virtual room. Some of you are in the physical room. It's a chance to listen to one another, to learn from one another, and strengthen the connection between science and the lived experience. This is really a special thing. It's also a moment to generate some excitement, because this is exactly the kind of bold, patient-centered effort that ARPA-H was purposely created to support, right? So as Chief Medical Officer, what excites me the most about this is the possibility that this work can actually be a model for a better way to innovate in healthcare, right? So a way that's scientifically ambitious and it's deeply human, that one that values patients and caregivers as really true partners, not just tick the box afterthoughts. It's also a way that we can ask not only can we build it, but also will it matter and will it reach people and will it improve lives? I mean, that's why everyone at ARPA-H is here. We want to get things out to the bedside and change the way care is delivered, right? So I'm going to start to ramble now, so I'm going to cut myself off, but I do want to say thank you again to everyone that's here. Thank you, Dr. Kimberly Steele and your amazing team. Thank you to the performer teams, discovery duos, the patients, the caregivers. Thank you for bringing your expertise, your creativity, your urgency, and your hope to this effort. At ARPA-H, we really believe that breakthroughs happen when bold science meets real world need. And these efforts right here, they embody that belief. So we're excited to be on this journey with all of you. And thank you very much for letting me ramble a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fadul. And I'm going to let you in all on a secret. When I first made the case for the lymphatic system, Dr. Fadul was what I'd lovingly call a curious skeptic. And I say that with the utmost affection, because a good skeptic is exactly who you want in the room when you are placing the biggest bets in the building. And I am thrilled to report that I believe he has officially joined the Believer Club. And it's a wonderful place to be, Dr. Fadul, because this field is about to explode. So, moving on, let me answer the question on everyone's mind. Why does this moment matter? For decades and hundreds of billions of dollars, we have targeted individual diseases one at a time. Take a look at this body system. Obesity, heart failure, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's diseases. One system underneath all of them is the one that we have systematically entirely overlooked, the lymphatic system. You guessed it. The lymphatic system drains cellular waste. It balances fluid transport. It transports essential nutrients and fats. And importantly, it commands and orchestrates our immune response. And when it breaks down, metabolism falters, aging accelerates, immunity weakens, and organs deteriorate. And yet, here's the stunning part. There's not a single FDA-approved diagnostic or therapeutic that directly targets it, not one. And once you see how far the system reaches, you understand why that gap is so dangerous and why lymphatics and why we need to do this now. So, I say no lymph, no life. Look at this body system. There are 10 different body systems listed. Modern medicine treats each as its own. A neurologist sees Alzheimer's disease. A cardiologist sees heart failure. A surgeon should see lymphedema. I question that one. But what if they're all looking at the same disease? One root cause in 10 different disguises. It's because these conditions trace back to the same quiet failure, the lymphatic system breaking down. This is why I call the body's invisible infrastructure, threaded through every organ system, quietly enabling each one and quietly implicated when they fail. Now, how does a surgeon end up here championing a system most physicians rarely name? I always show this because I'm proud of it. I am there. That was my first faculty job. For 2 decades, the operating room was my home. And I'll be honest, I operated for years without fully appreciating the lymphatic structures that my instruments crossed, they touched, or the role lymphatic dysfunction was quietly playing in the disease that I treated every day. If you're not trained to look for something, you don't see it. And if you don't see it, you certainly do not treat it. And then everything changed overnight. In 2016, and many know my story, my world changed overnight. This is my son, Michael. At age 6, after a year-long diagnostic odyssey, he was diagnosed with Kaposiform lymphangiomatosis, an ultra-rare, life-threatening lymphatic disease. And the first sentence I read is etched in my memory forever. KLA has a poor prognosis and no cure. He had 2 physician parents, and we had never heard of it. No diagnostics, no FDA-approved drugs, few clinicians who even knew the signs of lymphatic dysfunction, an entire body system to human health left behind. But this isn't the face, my Michael. This is why I'm sitting here. One child's fight became a mission for millions. And it's one image that turned my grief into purpose, and I'm going to share it with you now. This is the moment the light bulb went off for me and my husband. On the left is a normal lymphatic system. On the right is my Michael. You don't need to be a radiologist to see the difference. Standing there with the interventional radiologist and him telling me this was the worst case he had seen, it hit me. We cannot appreciate what we cannot see. This system has been invisible to my entire career, and so I overlooked it. The single realization set everything that followed in motion. And here's just how alive and how hidden the system really is. Take a look. This is a live human lymphatic vessel pumping on its own right now. Many of these vessels are finer than a human hair, yet they're working every second of every day. And this is exactly why it's been so hard. They're delicate, nearly clear, low pressure, low flow, and invisible to the tools that were built for arteries and veins. If we can't see it, we ignore it. If we ignore it, we never build the tools to see it. And that's the loop we set out to break here and now. So we built not one program, but 2. We brought ARPA-H something audacious, not one disease, but as Dr. Fadul said, an entire body system. Light on your left, lymphatic imaging, genomics, and phenotyping technologies, is building the tools to finally see the system. Its question is simple. What if we could make the invisible lymphatic system visible? And GLIDE, groundbreaking lymphatic interventions in drug exploration, is building the tools to fix it. Its question, what if doctors could prevent and cure disease by targeting the lymphatic system? Today belongs to GLIDE, and later I will return to LIGHT. But here's the truth. We are not building this alone. And no group has done more to map the road ahead than the one you'll hear right now. For the past 2 years, the National Commission on Lymphatic Diseases poured extraordinary effort into a true labor of love, interviewing hundreds of stakeholders to map the gaps, challenges, and opportunities across this entire field and beyond, producing a landmark report just submitted to the NIH and then to Congress. I am honored, very honored, that the people who shaped it are here right now to walk us through the big picture highlights. Dr. Zarina Gallus from NHLBI, Dr. Stanley Roxon, Stephanie Dreyer, and Alexa Arcolano. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Dr. Steele and her team at ARPA-H. Dr. Steele has been really the force behind the focus on lymphatic diseases, and we know each other as mothers and professionals since before ARPA-H. So I'm in awe of what you've been able to achieve. So I'm very happy to act as the basically opening act for the principals of the commission that will talk about the commission. And I'm representing NHLBI that has been tasked by the NIH to convene the National Commission for Lymphatic Diseases. And this was a long work before even the commission started, but we're extremely happy that this has worked this way. So I would like to show the next slide. To show that what we do is basically fund research, and this is just to show that among our many areas that are covered by our branch, which is the main home for lymphatic research at NIH, the lymphatic discoveries have increased steadily past 10 years. Next slide, please. This is to show that this was not serendipitous. This was based on efforts that have taken place for over 20 years. And I want to specifically highlight the first milestone represented here. In 2002, NHLBI has initiated an effort across the entire NIH to coordinate all the institutes and interest in lymphatic research. And that was also with the advice of Dr. Stan Roxon, you will hear from next, who acted as an external advisor to the NIH. The next nice picture we have there is a workshop that has been co-hosted together with Learn that has attracted a lot of attention to the field, and including was featured on local TV. Dr. Esther Tulonai was the first chair of this trans NIH effort, and as she retired, I took over the leadership of the effort as well as the portfolio, and together across the NIH, we worked on putting together two categories that now can be seen from outside on the NIH website, and they show the number of investments that NIH has made in lymphatic research. We also sponsor a lot of workshops and high-level publications that have further attracted attention to the field. And we funded a lot of research. Among them, one that we are very proud of is a specific project, large project, multi-PI project that is mapping the lymphatic vasculature. So in 2015, we had a first interactive map that was produced by Dr. Singhal and his group that can be used by physicians. He's a surgeon, and physicians can use it, and researchers can use it as well. I also featured here Dr. Salenka Tanya, who has played a key role among the large effort that we mounted an NHLBI by serving as the executive secretary for the National Commission for Lymphatic Diseases that has presented its report to our council just past month in June of 2026. And the last slide, just to say that the next phase is vetting of the reports through NIH, HHS, and reporting back to Congress. And we are looking forward to having sort of a wider event when we can speak more at length about the commission. But I'm very pleased to be handing over the baton to Dr. Stan Roxon. Stan, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gallus, for the introduction and for the opportunity to work with NHLBI in this effort. I'm very honored to be here not only as a GLIDE and LIGHT investigator, but also as the co-chair of the National Commission. You will have seen on Dr. Gallus's last slide that we presented this project to the Advisory Council of NHLBI on June 9th. We have only a limited time today, so I'm going to breeze through these slides, but for anybody who wants to hear a little bit longer version of this, it is archived on the NHLBI website. Next slide, please. So Kim Steele showed you a version of this in relationship to the broad array of diseases that we now associate the function or malfunction of the lymphatic system. And many of you today here, I know, are affected by very specific lymphatic associated diseases, but do understand that it is our mission, as Dr. Steele has already highlighted, to shine a spotlight on every health and as mechanisms of disease that can be targets for future therapeutics. Next slide, please. So in that light, as you've already heard, the National Commission was created under the direct auspices of NHLBI on behalf of the NIH to be a transparent, comprehensive, and accessible public forum. We attempted to assess critical challenges, to gather input from an overarching spectrum of stakeholders, and eventually to provide an actionable plan to move forward for the future, to amplify what NHLBI has already done, to highlight the work of organizations like ARPA-H, and to have a path forward to really find solutions to these very compelling problems. Next slide, please. So I have been very honored to work as an indivisible team with my co-chair, Stephanie Dreyer, who will be making some comments after I show these slides. And certainly it was our interactive efforts as clinician, professional, and patient that I believe has helped to drive this work forward. Next slide, please. I'd also like to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts of the Commission as a whole, and you will be able to see here that we were comprised of clinicians, clinician scientists, patient advocates, and basic scientists, all of whom have dedicated mutually our efforts toward creating this final report. And you will see among these individuals, Alexa Ercolano, who is here with us today as a representative of the Commission and also as a member of one of the discovery duos, as you'll hear later today. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea of how expansive our efforts were during the 2 years that we actively met as a commission, we had 77 monthly committee meetings. We had 18 meetings of the co-chairs. We had 8 quarterly meetings, either virtual or in person, 2 town hall forums where we convened representatives of the patient community and the advocacy community that represents them. We had 20 key informant sessions outside of these. We did have a formal request for information for which we received over 200 responses, and we performed a portfolio analysis of the 23 NIH institutes that support lymphatic research. Next slide, please. This is a cloud, word cloud demonstration of how broad our attempt was to embrace the stakeholders and key informants that led to our final conclusions. Next slide, please. So just to be sure that you believe that we were primarily, first and foremost, interested in the community voice, here is one of the representative voices that we heard in one of the town hall forums, representing a relatively rare lymphatic specific disease called congenital chylothorax. And I think this slide is representative of the problem that we're trying to solve through the recommendations of the Commission. Next slide, please. So this is a brief outline of our report, which will eventually be submitted to Congress after it is approved by the Office of the Director at the NIH. You'll see that it had 8 specific chapters leading to a conclusion with broad appendices representing the data that we accumulated. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the content of this report. Next slide, please. What we are going to ultimately be recommending is that we have an integrated national lymphatic network that has cross-cutting priorities with measurable milestones, featuring a collaborative approach and transformative vision. Next slide, please. It looks like my slides have been truncated, but I think in the interest of time, that's not a bad thing. We've omitted chapters 1 through 6, but it will lead to our conclusion, which is a call to action in which we believe that the lymphatics are indeed, as Dr. Steele already emphasized, the hidden network of health and a target for eradication of disease. We understand that millions are affected and chiefly under-recognized in our current healthcare system. We need dedicated leadership so that we can progress and provide new solutions. We need collaboration, we need innovation, and of course, ARPA-H represents a great model for that collaborative and innovative approach. And we need to prioritize research, healthcare, and policy for equitable outcomes. The future, we hope, will be a timely, effective, and compassionate care system for all patients affected by lymphatic disease. And maybe we can say more broadly for all patients, since we now understand that lymphatics play such an integral role in all of health and disease. Next slide, please. I want to present our proposed blueprint for a lymphatic ecosystem that is based upon the content of the prior 8 chapters. Next slide, please. We have created a proposal in which there will be a very important public-private expansion ring of the National Lymphatic Network core. We acknowledge that organizations like the NIH and ARPA-H are making broad changes in the ecosystem, but alone cannot do it without interaction with the private sector. We are proposing a system in which there will be governance by a board of trustees, an executive office, and a scientific council. Next slide, please. The first layer is the virtual coordinating forum that will bring together leaders and advocates to set priorities, share data, and kickstart collaboration. Next slide. The next layer is a robust national network core with dedicated research hubs, biobanks that are desperately needed, educational programs also desperately needed, and patient engagement, which involves many of you here today, all working under a unified structure with new divisions of a discovery and basic science hub, diagnostic biomarker and imaging core, education and telemonitoring, patient advocacy, and regulatory and reimbursement units. I believe that much of the work of ARPA-H will fit very beautifully into this broad. Please. The last or the outer layer is a broad public-private partnership, which will allow industry, innovators in the tech sector, and philanthropic partners to drive breakthrough projects to include the broadening world of AI and new therapeutics. And I believe this is a beautiful vision for the future. Next slide, please. So our bottom line message is that we need to build this as we can, and funding obviously will limit our actions right now, but we need to start now because the problems are compelling. We want a phased ecosystem with all of the elements that I've already highlighted on the prior slide. Next slide, please. Once again, we need to pay attention to the community. The community tells us broadly and repeatedly that the system of healthcare and its developments are not prepared to embrace this extraordinarily large swath of the disease spectrum, and we need to change that, and we need to change it today, and very importantly for tomorrow. Next slide, please. I'd like to acknowledge the resources of NIH that have allowed us to do this work. I very much want to highlight again the work of Selene Catania, who was the secretary of our commission and helped us to perform all of the activities that we needed to perform over the last 2 years. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Lenora Johnson, who's the director of Office of Science Policy Engagement, Education, and Communications of NHLBI, and all of the entities that are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. And that concludes my formal presentation. I'd like to turn the microphone over to my co-chair, Stephanie Dreyer, for her comments about the work of the National Commission.
Thank you, Stan. It's been such an honor serving with you. In fact, the opportunity to work on the commission in general has been a great honor for me. We've spent, as you've heard, 2 years listening, learning, collaborating, challenging, and building something that I think is very important. But if I'm honest, it's difficult to just consider these last 2 years without thinking of another moment about 14 years ago in the ER, pregnant with my daughter, Daisy, when a doctor told me I had a disease that I couldn't pronounce, lymphangioliomyomatosis, rare, progressive, no cure, and a 5 to 7 year prognosis. I thought about my daughter turning 5 without me. I made a choice that I call the flip, a promise to take the worst thing that's ever happened to me and ask what it can teach me instead. And that choice changed how I live. And some doctors believe it changed how my disease behaved. 7 years after my diagnosis, I was still doing well. I say was because in the days following the presentation that Stan just shared, I actually stayed at the NIH Clinical Center as part of the LAM intramural program. And as it turns out, in that visit, we learned that my disease is progressing now. And I will not pretend that hasn't changed something in me. The flip still holds, it always will, but urgency has joined it. This is no longer abstract. This is my life. And that urgency is exactly why the commission's work matters so much. Lymphatic diseases like LAM touch millions of people, millions of stories like mine, like some of yours, and like Alexa's, who you'll hear from in a moment. And yet the system on our behalf has been fragmented for far too long. What this commission has proposed is different, a future approach that is lean, efficient, and effective in an outsized way at what it produces. Proof that when patients and clinicians and researchers sit at the same table, real change can happen. That's the future I hope for. No more scattered efforts, but a truly collaborative one where everybody, academia, healthcare professionals, foundations, industry, patients, and more are all rowing in the same direction toward the same goal. My experience with these brilliant and passionate commissioners and the NIH team, especially Doctors Catania and Johnson, who gave their time, their expertise, and their hearts to the work, has been inspiring, to say the least. And to the folks on this call, thank you for joining us in this journey. What you're building, real breakthroughs on a timeline that actually matches the urgency of the people living with disease, that's exactly what our community needs. So count me in, along with Dr. Fadul, as a believer. I am in 100%. I'm so excited for our work to be shared more broadly. When it is, my hope is that together, we don't let it become a record in the archives. Let's leverage it as a guide for what happens next and use it to inspire real change our lives depend on. Thank you for making space for our voices. There's one in particular I would really like you to hear because it's so powerful. Alexa, would you please share your perspective?
Thank you so much, Steph. And thank you, Dr. Roxon, too. It's, as Steph said, it's been an honor working with the entire commission. And thank you guys for giving space for us today. I will keep this brief because I know we've got a lot more to do today. But as sort of a bolstering rallying cry for the patients and the advocates on the call, it's easy when living with these conditions to feel like no one sees us, no one pays attention. I also, like many of you, wasn't diagnosed until 14 years into my journey living with primary lymphedema. But it feels only right that such an outspoken and proactive patient community such as ours gets to be included in this work, not just with the National Commission, but also with ARPA-H's Light and Glide programs. As a patient, there's a really great honor in having a seat at the table and to be acknowledged as an equally valuable voice in these discussions and in this work, especially when we felt so ignored for so long. And it really encapsulates that idea of nothing about us without us. We really get a say in what our lived experiences are and what treatments can help us and what we need. I always like to use this analogy as a lymphedema patient when talking about lymphatic awareness. It's a lot like the lymphatic system itself. You know, the lymph fluid needs the propulsion of the external forces of the surrounding muscles to move it and propel it forward. And the same is with this work. It's not going to move unless we are moving it forward. And I think today is a big propulsion of that advocacy. And I also want to remind the patients that are watching, you know, advocacy and awareness doesn't have to be big and loud. It can be as simple as wearing your garment in a visible way out in public. You never know who is going to see you and who needs to see you, and help kind of normalize the idea that, you know, there are lots of us out there. We need to be seen and we matter. So whether you do a quiet act of activism and awareness or a big loud one, it all matters. So that's my little spiel, and I'll hand it back to Dr. Steele.
Wow, thank you. And I can say for me, and I hope everyone out there, hearing the voices, Stephanie, Alexa, how proud I am to be a part of this and grateful for your voices and your advocacy. And together, we're going to beat this and build a huge lymphatic ecosystem. So thank you. Thank you to Stan, to Zarina, everyone. The report is the foundation the next decade will build on, and it points to the very thing that makes our teams so different. At the heart of every GLIDE team is a discovery duo, just like Stephanie, Alexa, the patients. They are combined with an early investigator, which we call our Jedis, and they're matched with a bridge, our patient and caregiver ambassadors. Two paths, very different paths, but together one discovery. A true scientific partner from day one. And this isn't a concept on a slide. It's real people in the room. This is what it looks like. Our bridges aren't a focus group or a courtesy seat on an advisory board. They help shape the research questions, the study design, and what success even looks like. Their goal is simple but radical: to make sure every solution that we build is designed with patients for patients, never for them from a distance. Because innovation moves faster and de-risks earlier when patients are at the table from the very start. So, without further ado, we have 8 teams that will present their Discovery Duo projects, evolving around 2 technical areas: restoring flow through physical interventions and normalizing function through therapeutics. Let me introduce you to our GLIDE Discovery Duos. Over to you, Josh, to take it away.
Thank you so much, Kim. So glad to be here. My name is Joshua Hooks, and I'm a technical contractor supporting Kimberly, and it has truly been my pleasure to work alongside such passionate individuals in the Discovery Duo teams. Just for everyone's reference, ARPA-H loves their acronyms. And so the Discovery Duo team, as Kim said, is made up of an early stage investigator that we call a JEDI, which stands for Jumpstarting Early Career Discovery and Innovation, and an individual that we've called a bridge, which stands for Beneficiary Representative, Informing Development and Guiding Engagement. And that's our patient ambassador or representative. So with that, I would love to turn things over to our first presenting Discovery Duo team from Stanford, Dr. Kimberly Stone and Jennifer Carr. And also on deck, we will have the Roperio team. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Stanford team. If you can come off mute.
Well, I can start and say hello to everyone and thank you. This is such a joy and such a inspiration to me as a patient, just getting to know all these wonderful people and being a part of the solution, really.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kim Stone. We're partners with Jennifer. I just wanted to start by saying to Kimberly and Alexa and Stephanie, thank you for sharing your stories. This is so inspirational and just really just an awesome infusion right away of the patient story. So our team at Stanford is taking, a lot of you have talked about the lymphatic system and rare diseases. We're taking an approach from an incredibly common disease. So we're looking to prevent breast cancer related lymphedema. So breast cancer is an incredibly common disease affecting 1 in 8 women in the United States. And the effects of the treatments, both surgical and other therapies, cause chronic long-term swelling in the arm, breast cancer associated lymphedema. And so our challenge is that this is common, chronic, and there are very poor treatments, but also there's a really insufficient acknowledgement by healthcare providers. So despite the fact that 1 in 8 women have breast cancer, most healthcare providers know very little about lymphedema and its treatment, and let alone how to prevent it. So our team is investigating a simple solution. What you see pictured here is the FaciliFlow implant. It's a small, it's an incredible, completely novel, tiny silicone-based device that's implanted at the time of lymph node surgery to allow for healing of the lymphatic channels. These little openings in here allow lymph fluid to flow through the device, and that flow promotes lymphatic regeneration. So this has to, first of all, this has to work, but second of all, it has to be delivered into an existing workflow in which providers and patients know about it and are ready to use it. So our team, if we could have the next slide, please. It aims to have, over the course of the next year, voice sessions so we can hear and understand from the community the needs, the priorities, the concerns. How will this really work for you as patients, for providers and surgeons in the real world? So we want from the very beginning to be designing something that's going to truly work, not just technically work and scientifically work, but actually work in the system of care in which it's provided. So we're hoping to interview in these voice sessions individuals who've been diagnosed with a lymphatic disease. It doesn't have to come from breast cancer treatment specifically, because through understanding the lymphatic disease process and diagnosis, that's going to inform us. We want to be we would like to be interviewing healthcare providers who treat and diagnose lymphatic disease. We want a really broad array of perspectives, not just breast cancer surgeons like myself or the leading advanced microvascular plastic surgeons. We know they already understand this field to some extent. We're looking for everybody who touches the disease, as well as advocacy organizations, medical societies, and of course the caregivers. This little diagram on the right just shows another little schema of how the device works. And the top picture in the top left is the division of lymphatic channels. And I kind of chuckled at Kim's earlier comment that we don't really see the lymph channels like this. It looks like it's highlighted so nicely in this picture, but they really are quite invisible during surgery. And then those damaged vessels typically just scar in. However, the notion is that this implanted device would allow vessel regrowth through that flow of lymphatic fluid across the device. You can have the next slide, please. Okay, so I think each of these duo pairs this morning are going to show you some form of QR code. This is ours. If you could save it, take a picture of it. We also have our partner from Learn, Cecilia's email listed here. Yeah. And we're going to be performing these interviews over the course of the next year. So please fill this form out so we can be in contact with you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Kim. With that, we're transitioning to the Roperio team. We have Lisa Palin and Quay Kui. And on deck, we have the Rice team. With that, I'll turn it over to the Roperio team. Thank you.
So, hi everyone, I'm Lisa Palin, and I am honored to serve as the patient in the Discovery Duo team for Team Roperio. And Kim, I have to say again, I love that ARPA-H created this program to intentionally pair researchers and the patients. This idea is just so incredibly powerful and in bringing together the lived experience with the research. I just love it. And like I said, I'm honored to be here. So Kui is my Discovery Duo partner. He's a research fellow in the vascular biology program at Harvard Medical School and Boston Children's Hospital. While he brings the scientific expertise, I bring the patient perspective. So about 10 years after my cancer treatments, I developed lymphedema in my arm and my hand. Just like all lymphatic disease patients, I've learned to adapt and manage my own lymphedema because there really aren't any great treatment options out there, right? We've all become experts in managing our own condition. Well, the Roperio team is developing a drug to activate the lymphatics when they shut down, which we hope will be then a treatment for both secondary and primary lymphedema patients. But before this therapy can succeed, we need to understand something that only the patients, the caregivers, and the clinicians that treat lymphatic disease patients can tell us. What actually matters the most? It's not what researchers assume matters. It's not what the regulators think matters. It's what matters to the people that are living with the disease every single day. Next slide, please. Over the course of the next several months, we'll be conducting voice sessions with members of the lymphatic community. These aren't clinical trials. There are no right or wrong answers. They're simply conversations designed to understand your experience and your priorities. We'll be asking questions like, if a new drug treatment became available, what improvements would actually make a difference in your life? Is reducing swelling your top priority? How about preventing infections or improving mobility or reducing the amount of time you're in compression? How would you weigh the benefits of a medication against some possible side effects? Would you prefer a pill or an injection? And how often would you be willing to receive treatments? We also want to hear from the caregivers and the healthcare professionals because each brings a unique perspective on living with and treating lymphatic disease. Every one of these perspectives helps researchers design better therapies and better clinical trials. Next slide, please. So just like so many patients, for much of my life, lymphedema has been something I simply learned to live with. But through the Discovery Duo program, I've had the opportunity to turn my pain into purpose and ultimately into power. Being part of the Discovery Duo has been one of the most meaningful experiences of my advocacy journey because it showed me that my voice can do more than raise awareness. It can help shape the future of research. And as someone who has lived with lymphedema for more than 20 years, for the first time, I really felt like my lived experience isn't just a story, it's data, it's expertise. And knowing that my experiences can influence the questions that researchers ask and the solutions they're working on really give me tremendous hope. And now we're inviting others to experience that same sense of purpose. So whether you're a patient living with the disease, the caregiver, or a healthcare professional, I encourage you to participate in one of our interviews. You don't need a research background, just your unique perspective. What might feel like an ordinary experience to you could be the insight that helps researchers make the next breakthrough. So one of the things I've learned in this is that every story has value. For years, many of us had carried these experiences quietly. Now we have the opportunity to make sure those experiences lead to better treatments, better research, and better outcomes. So please join us, scan the QR code or reach out using the contact information on the slide and participate in one of our sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Your perspective is exactly why we have this program, and I'm so excited for everything that you'll contribute to your team's technology. With that, happy to transition to the RICE team with Veronica Cineras, and I believe joining her will be Martha Fowler, supporting on the technical side as well.
Hi, everyone.
the program so far has been tremendous. And I want to send hugs out to all the patients online, and especially to Alexa and Lisa, who have been dear friends of mine for almost 10 years now. I feel like I'm not only part of a community, but part of a family in some aspects. And so I'm so happy to welcome new members to that family to attack this global challenge that we face with lymphatic disease. So my name is Veronica Senares. I am the Patient Services Director for Learn. As a multi-generational Texan and a patient who was diagnosed by a billboard on the side of the Southwest Freeway in Houston in 1998, never, ever in a million years would I have thought that 28 years later and 7 miles across the city that I would meet and be so honored to be part of the Discovery Duo representing Team Elixir at Rice University. I am simply awestruck. And I will follow something that I've written out because I tend to get emotional. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so forgive me in advance for that. Elixir stands for Eliminating Lymphatic Irregularities by Cross-Disciplinary Intelligent Regulation. At its heart, Elixir brings together experts from regenerative medicine, bioengineering, clinical care, patient advocacy, and research to tackle one of the greatest challenges in lymphatic disease. Not simply managing symptoms, but exploring new ways to restore and regenerate the lymphatic system itself through innovative cell-based therapies. From my viewpoint as a patient advocate in this Discovery Duo, my role is to help connect the science. Please leave it on the previous slide. Well, no, go ahead, leave it there. My role is to help connect the science with the lived experience of the people and the families this work is ultimately intended to serve. My family's history with lymphedema dates back to 1905. I represent the third generation affected by lymphedema distichiasis syndrome, a rare inherited genetic condition. Across 3 generations, it has impacted 6 members of my family, each with a different presentation of lower extremity lymphedema. Growing up, I watched my father endure and survive over 100 bouts of cellulitis, and he went subject 3 times. My paternal family members lived with swelling, discomfort, and uncertainty. Long before there was the internet, AI, specialists, genetic testing, or meaningful research opportunities. And like so many other rare disease families out there, we spent years searching for answers that simply did not exist. Those experiences shaped not only my personal journey, but ultimately my professional mission to serve the lymphatic community. That's why being part of Elixir is so meaningful to me and why we want to hear your voices. I have lived with primary lymphedema for more than 3 decades. Through my personal experience and my work as a patient advocate, I've seen how urgently our community needs treatments that go beyond managing swelling and symptoms every single day. So how did I become involved? My involvement with Team Elixir also brought me together with Dr. Martha Fowler. Coincidentally, Martha and I first connected through the Learn Texas chapter about a year ago. That connection has grown into the opportunity to collaborate on this project that places scientific innovation and patient voice in the same room. I am not the smartest person in the room, but what I can tell you about Elixir is that it is a regenerative medicine, cell-based therapy, and that the long-term hope for this treatment is one and done. So think about Team Elixir, Rice University, as the one and done team. And without further ado, I'll move it over to Martha to explain more of the technical aspects.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Yes, it's been such a privilege to work beside you from the very beginning before this came all together. So we are a strong believer, since we did this from day one, in bringing in, the patient perspective, your all's perspective. So happy to be involved in this, and please feel free to reach out. The goal is to have something, as Veronica mentioned, that's a one and done for lymphatic irregularities. So while we're focusing on primary and secondary lymphedema as our initial, right, our hopes is to apply this across the board. So happy to hear any feedback on this platform. So feel free to connect and get involved. But essentially, this platform, as Veronica alluded to, is a regenerative therapy. We utilize the platform actually that we utilize has been seen through the FDA or clinically validated. So we essentially bring those pieces together to create a injectable. So it'd be an in and out patient procedure, an injectable that actually at the micro scale repairs through regenerating the lymphatic system, but also we're exploring a variety of therapeutics, because this platform, you can essentially turn on one therapeutic and then turn on another. So you're able to regulate the therapeutic of choice or the therapeutic that is needed in that lymphatic environment. So such as a regenerative molecule, but then you can also modulate inflammation as well as valve repair. So the whole goal is to have really this small, intelligent platform that can be injected and get you in and out of the clinic rapidly. So we're happy to hear any thoughts revolving this, as we move this forward to the clinic, and super grateful and appreciative to be here. And thank you, ARPA-H, Team Bold, for everything that you've done to bring it this far. So we'd love to hear from you. This is our link to sign up. This is a Google form. Feel free to scan it and sign up. We would love to hear your opinions. We strongly believe, as I mentioned, and as Veronica will say and attest to, we believe that your perspective, whether patient, clinician, advocate, any way that you've been affected or impacted by lymphatics, please feel free to reach out. We would love to hear more and get your feedback on this platform as we move it forward to the clinic. Thank you.
Thank you so much to you both. Really excited about your technology and everything that it means in terms of correcting lymphatic dysfunction across all sorts of indications. Our next team, unfortunately, cannot join us live. They are virtually joining from the other side of the globe. They've pre-recorded their talk, and really excited to see what the Monash team in Australia is working on.
Hi everyone, I'm excited to introduce Team Repair, the discovery duo from Monash University and Seaport Therapeutics. Repair stands for Remodeling Enteric and Pancreatic Abnormal Lymphatics via the intestinal route, which is a fancy way of saying, and a very long way of saying, that we are tackling lymphatic dysfunction right at its source. By targeting the enteric lymphatics directly, we are addressing lymphatic dysfunction at its origin point, instead of just treating downstream symptoms. The bridge within our duo is Liz, and my name is Debbie.
Apologies for the technical hiccups.
Real progress in two tough and problematic areas, which is the metabolic disease area and also pancreatic cancer. These are conditions where lymphatic dysfunction plays a role, yet they've been largely overlooked, and we think it's time to change that. Lymphatic dysfunction is such a big driver of these diseases, and by bringing focus and new therapeutic strategies to the lymphatic system, we see a real opportunity to change outcomes for patients who currently have very few options available to them. Our goal is not just to advance new therapeutics, but also to bring the whole lymphatic community together. We're talking patients, clinicians, researchers, everyone, to shape what comes next. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Liz, who's going to talk us through how we are going to connect with this wide audience and also how our voice sessions are going to take shape.
Thanks, Demi. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Beauvais, and I'm serving as the bridge member of our Discovery Duo, and I'm excited to be part of Team Repair. For our voice sessions, these will be one-on-one sessions with you, and these can either be virtual or in person if you're local, and should last up to 60 minutes. So who would like to join us? We'd like to talk to patients and caregivers of people living with metabolic disease and or pancreatic cancer, We'd like to speak to advocacy organizations within these groups, along with healthcare providers who both treat and diagnose metabolic disease and pancreatic cancer. Additionally, we'd like to talk to investors who have interest in healthcare innovations, specifically within these disease spaces. Looking at our timeline, we will have 4 different rounds of voice sessions. The first round will end the end of November, which will be identifying challenges within each of these stakeholder groups. Round 2, which will end the end of March, and round 3 through the end of June, we'll be looking at solutions as well as additional challenges these groups face. And then round 4, which will end the end of August, will be piloting solutions across these stakeholder groups. Some example focus points of questions that we will have during these sessions are around the link between lymphatic dysfunction and metabolic disease and pancreatic cancer, along with barriers or concerns that you may have with either your current treatment, new treatment, or joining a clinical trial focused on lymphatic dysfunction within these spaces.
Thanks, Liz, for that. So with that, we're just going to conclude our section of our presentation. If anyone is interested in reaching out, if you've got any questions, queries, or concerns, we have our contact details there on the slide. And if you're interested in participating, we have a QR code that you can scan and you can follow the prompts and register your interest that way. But thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and have a great day.
That was great. I'll just add, as we transition to our next team, which is the Georgia Tech team, I think this project's really cool as it really highlights the broad role of the lymphatic system, whether it's cancer or metabolic diseases like obesity. The lymphatics play a really key role. And with that, I'm really glad to invite Dr. Michael White and Tiffany Ferry from the Georgia Tech team to present about their technologies.
Thank you, Josh. Good day, everybody, and happy World Cup Day for the game that's coming up this afternoon. My name is Michael White, and I represent us for Team HEAL, that's Healthy Ameliorated Lymphatics. Our prime institute is Georgia Tech. I am a practicing pediatric hematologist, and guess what? You're not surprised. I received no lymphatic training that I can remember during medical school or residency, and surprisingly, I think during fellowship. I give so much credit to my mentor, Dr. Briones, who tipped me off to this wonderfully rewarding and beautiful field to be in. So I'm hooked on it and glad to be here. I also would like to introduce Tiffany Ferry, who is our bridge for this exciting project. Tiffany is more of a dynamic duo partner than I could have ever imagined. Tiffany has been being a bridge for so many years. So Tiffany, I'm glad you finally got this title. Tiffany is a parent of a child who was diagnosed with a complex lymphatic anomaly, who is now an adult. And we're very thankful for that. And Tiffany has been a caregiver for many years and knows what this space is about. In addition to that, Tiffany has been the president of the Lymphatic Malformation Institute and has been funding and supporting research and advocating for you for 16 years and counting. Well, who's counting, she would say, but it's been 16 years plus. We're very excited to be a part of this overwhelmingly positive group of people striving to make life better for you who have lymphatic disease. So as you know, you already know the challenges, many of the challenges that are associated here, but we are performing in technical area 2, accelerated pharmacologic therapies. We are here to develop new drugs that are going to be available for us to use and for you to receive. The challenges include lymphatic diseases are, of course, understudied and very much under-recognized, and that has led to the position that we are currently in today. People who have lymphatic disease, specifically lymphatic malformations and secondary lymphedema, have no FDA-approved pharmacotherapies, which extremely limits their ability to receive medication and treatments, as you are well aware. Also a challenge that currently used pharmacotherapies are non-specific and often cause systemic toxicity to other parts of the body that may not be affected by lymphatic disease. And we hear all the time, as do you, that people want and need access to additional safe and efficacious approved therapies. So that brings us to our goals and solutions, of course. We are standing on many years of amazing research from Dr. Susan Thomas and Dr. Brandon Dixon's labs that have been working tirelessly to help lymphatic health improve. We are leveraging lymphatic nanomedicine platforms to develop effective and safe medicines for you. And we are also, by doing this, as you can see in our picture in the lower right-hand corner, we are developing injectable platforms that can hold different drug therapies. We aim to deliver sustained release drugs that will release drugs for hours to weeks directly to lymphatic tissue, and thus avoiding systemic toxicity in other parts of your body that are not affected by the lymphatic disease. In doing this, of course, we are here to create accessible options that are affordable and that you can receive to patients with lymphatic malformations and secondary lymphedema. And because of the first challenge of this being so understudied and under-recognized, we are actively campaigning with all of you stakeholders to make lymphatic disease better understood and better recognized. We need you to help us with our voice sessions, just like everybody else does. So we invite you to do this. We are also conducting structured voice sessions with a diverse group of stakeholders. As you would imagine, our stakeholder list of people who we want to talk to and who want to speak with us has been growing exponentially since we started this project, and we haven't even started our voice sessions, but we need you. All of you who are here are stakeholders, and your voice needs to be heard. Starting with patients and community members, patients, caregivers, patient advocacy organizations, and support groups. We really want to hear from you so that the root of our project is firmly grounded in a great place so that we can remain on track as we develop this for you. Then, of course, we want to speak with healthcare providers so that we can educate you. We want to know what you do know. We want to know what you don't know. And we want to know what you're open to learning about lymphatic medicine so that we can improve healthcare for others. For our industry partners out there, we need and want to talk to you. We feel that we are partners with you as we can leverage our platforms to deliver these existing drugs to the lymphatic system. And then for those in the government sector, we also are so much depending on your help and support for this. And we would like to know how we can do this in tandem with you. So just remember that all of you are here. Your input will shape how we develop our project. So please join us and be a part of the solution. You can scan to sign up, or you may email us. You can see our team here at the bottom. And again, we are overwhelmed by everyone here, and we realize we are going to be one of the solutions to lymphatic diseases that are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael, and Tiffany, for both of your dedications in the space and for everything that you're doing to bring new solutions to patients. With that, we'll transition to the 3DT team with Miriam and Darla, and just asking that we're mindful of time as we speed towards the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Darla Burr. I am the bridge for the 3DT team with At-Last, which is anti-thrombotic lymphatic stent therapy. So what brought me to this is that I have intestinal lymphangiectasia. It is a rare intestinal disease that I was born with. And I had never in my life heard a doctor say they could even help me, let alone potentially cure me, until I met Dr. Maximic in Philadelphia. And actually he found me, which is so cool. I went to him and he found out that my thoracic duct was completely obstructed. And I got this super fun scar from that surgery, which was amazing. And it was so great that he was able to help me and fix me in many ways. Sadly, he did not cure my disease, of course, but it was a huge change. And I can tell you that one of the biggest challenges of having a thoracic duct obstruction that I've seen a difference in myself now that it's been repaired is that you have the fluid buildup. You'll have the swelling that can occur across your entire body, which is what was occurring and is still a problem for me, but much more better managed now, much easier to live with. And I don't get the chylous ascites, which you do get when you have that kind of swelling. Your organs can swell. You can have the discomfort, the pain. Prior to that surgery, I was always just told to use compression, get massages, do your best, right? And so it was such a relief to finally meet someone who could change the world for me and change that outcome. And I'll tell you that it was an amazing moment. And when he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a bridge, I was like, absolutely, I'm your biggest fan. So, at last there's hope where there was not an FDA approved treatment before for thoracic duct obstruction. we're working on it now. And to be a part of this team and to hear these conversations and their passion and their love for this has just been life-changing for me. And it's something that I wish every patient who's ever been told just manage with what you're dealing with could be a part of, because I'm amazed. I'm in awe when I hear them talk and I hear their passion and their love for all of us that are dealing with this. And rest assured, if you could hear it too, you would just, I leave every meeting and I'm so excited. So I leave that with introducing my Jedi, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Darla, and thank you so much, ARPA-H, for providing this opportunity to introduce our technology. I'm Mariam Zabihi, early stage investigator with medical background. I joined the team because of my interest to research, but as soon as I joined, I learned how I was unaware of this system as a doctor. Back home, I was teaching in medical school, and the main textbook I was teaching had 700 pages, and just 2 pages was a brief introduction to lymphatic system. And now I'm dedicated and enthusiastic to learn more and work as much as I can for this system. As Darla mentioned, in ATLAS team, we are working on thoracic duct obstruction. Thoracic duct obstruction causes different symptoms, and for resolving that, we have 2 main technical areas, physical intervention and pharmacological treatment. Our engineers are developing an implantable device that could be implanted by minimally invasive surgery. This device could open the thoracic duct and keep it open. This is a stent, self-expanding non-tunnel stent that elute drug, and also they want to make a shunt. As you are seeing in this picture, this shunt will make a fistula between thoracic duct and a vein that decompress thoracic duct. If we can open thoracic duct and keep it open, so the main cause of many problem and symptoms will be resolved. Then instead of decompression therapy for peripheral organ, we have the root cause of problem solved. And next slide, please. Meanwhile, our engineers are working on a stent. Me and Darla working on collecting your valuable insight about your life experience. We are not asking for like a technical question from you. We are asking to learn more about the difficulties that the patient, caregiver, and healthcare system in general has in diagnosis and treatment of lymphatic disease. The result of this interview, we will do interviews. The interviews result will be used for developing our device, also to find the knowledge gap and shortcoming of policies that are managing the whole system. And we need you, we want you join us if you are a patient that suffer from lymphatic disease, or if you are a healthcare provider that are in touch with patient of lymphatic disease at any stage of their journey, and if you are a caregiver, either family member or professional caregiver, your insight can help us a lot. Please join us.
We need your experience, your insight, and at last there's hope for a cure. So please
Thank you
us.
both. Thank you, Darla and Mariam. It's been a pleasure working with you both, and excited for your technology. And again, just I think really emphasizes the broad role of the lymphatic system. With the next team, we'll be going back to Australia with another pre-recorded video from our Australia team. I think this global perspective that they bring is incredibly valuable.
Hi, everyone. Many thanks to ARPA-H team board for giving our team this great opportunity to present our work during the community convention webinar. Because of the timing of the webinar, we decided to record this presentation. My name is Muhammad Abdullah, and I work for Monash team as a Discovery Duo Jedi, alongside the team's bridge, Susan Haywood, who's presenting with me today.
Thank you, Mohammed. Hi, everyone. I am a long-term rheumatoid arthritis patient, and I am thrilled and honoured to be involved in this sort of a research project.
Thank you, Susan. Our team is called Team SLAM, which stands for Selective Lymphatic Allosteric Modulators, and our team is based at Monash University in Australia. The technical area in which our project is involved in is technical area 2, which focuses on pharmacologic gene and cell therapies. Our team is primarily developing lymph-specific muscarinic acetylcholine receptor modulators to treat arthritis and lymphedema. Now, millions of people worldwide live with diseases associated with lymphatic abnormalities for which there is no cure. Current treatments of many lymph-related diseases are lifelong, provide only symptomatic relief, and are often associated with significant adverse side effects. Despite the central role of the lymphatic system in health and disease, its potential as a therapeutic target remains largely under-recognized and underexplored. Our Discovery Tool team will enhance awareness of both the problem and the solution, and will incorporate perspectives of patients and other stakeholders into the drug development process, which will result in optimal design of lymph-specific treatments. Ultimately, our innovative lymph-specific treatments aim to enhance the quality of life of children and adults living with arthritis or lymphedema. The image in this slide shows an inflamed joint of a patient with rheumatoid arthritis. In these joints, there is an accumulation of inflammatory cells and factors. This accumulation is driven by abnormal structure and function of the joint-draining lymphatic vessels, which worsens the progression of the disease and leads to arthritic flare. Our first-in-class medicines specifically target the joint-draining lymphatic vessels and promote their lymphatic pumping, which facilitates the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis and potentially other diseases such as primary and secondary lymphedema. To address the unmet needs of patients with lymphatic diseases, we will distribute surveys and we will conduct at least 50 voice sessions with the relevant stakeholders to know about their knowledge, experience, and expectations regarding the current and future treatments for lymphatic diseases. Examples of questions that we'll ask during the voice sessions include: what improvements would you prioritize for future lymphatic therapies? And also, what improvements to your condition would you hope to achieve with a new drug therapy? So who should join us? We are going to interview patients with juvenile arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, lymphedema primary or secondary, caregivers of patients with the aforementioned conditions, advocacy organizations working on lymphedema, arthritis or rare diseases, clinicians who treat arthritis and or lymphedema, and also we are going to interview other relevant stakeholders such as venture capitalists, health insurance experts, researchers, academics, medical students, and representatives of relevant government organizations and programs such as FDA and Medicare respectively. Your input will directly shape how we design our innovative lymph-specific treatments. It should be pointed out that the voice sessions will run in 4 rounds from July 2026 to August 2027. And the first round of voice sessions will take place from July to October 2026. Now I will hand over to Susan.
Thank you. Please join us and be a part of the solution. If you have any questions, you can contact our team members by email. If you are interested in being contacted in the future with updates on our technology or in sharing your experience with lymphatic disease, to help inform our project, please provide your contact information, name and email after scanning this QR code. Currently, our human ethics research application is under review. We will contact interested parties once our application is approved. Finally, your voice matters. Make your knowledge, experience, and expectations part of our research to help us design innovative treatments for lymphatic disorders. Thank you.
Really appreciate that presentation from the Monash team. And while we transition to our final GLIDE team, Lymphatech, I just really want to emphasize that we've, as they mentioned there, tasked the Discovery Duo teams not only with engaging with patients and clinicians to understand those gaps, but also to meet with investors and industry reps to understand what are those gaps in translating their technology to the actual clinic. And with that, I'd like to introduce our last, but certainly not least, team Lymphatech with Mallory Mark and Jill Bingley.
Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone, or whatever time it is in your part of the world. My name is Mallory Mark. I'm the Jedi, part of the Discovery Duo for Lymphatech. I'm joined by Jill Binkley. We are both physical therapists, while Jill is also a patient. We both are certified lymphedema therapists. I'm a board-certified oncology clinician. Jill is a rock star in the field of oncology rehab and all things breast cancer-related lymphedema. So honored to work alongside her and be the Discovery Duo for the Lymphatech team. So the Lymphatech team is really trying to tackle these three main challenges that all of you are all too familiar with, those living with or treating individuals with lymphedema. But the goal is that we are trying to tackle the challenges related to detecting swelling early enough to prevent that ongoing progression, improving access to specialized lymphedema care, and then finding treatment options that fit into everyday life. Next slide, please. So some of the solutions that they are working on include improvements in at-home monitoring with the use of bioimpedance, improving access to lymphedema care with ongoing guidance and remote care options that are going to improve access for those with long gaps from their therapy clinics or long gaps in between visits, especially those in a rural population, improve the ability to do remote monitoring and then digital communication between the patient and the clinician. And they're also looking to expand current treatment option in the realm of compression, looking at that next generation of compression with smart garments and active compression. Next slide, please. I think this schematic does a really wonderful job at the three pillars and how they're trying to create solutions for those three challenges. Looking first at bioimpedance monitoring, the goal with this is, unfortunately, one of the biggest limitations that we see in lymphedema is it's often not recognized or diagnosed until visible and significant swelling is noted. The goal with bioimpedance monitoring is that patients can monitor more subtle changes in body fluid before swelling becomes visible or measurable, or again, improve that measurement in between therapy visits or for folks that are living in a more rural population where access isn't quite the same. And then hopefully the goal is with early detection, it means timelier treatment and then reducing some of that progression. Looking next into the next generation compression, starting with the active compression wear. The goal with this, and we know compression is a cornerstone of lymphedema treatment, but with active compression, the goal is that this device is going to go beyond your traditional compression by providing adjustable or intermittent pressure to help better mobilize that lymphatic fluid. The goal is that it's a lot less cumbersome, a lot more user-friendly than those traditional garments. So we're hoping to better encourage consistent use and make treatment easier to incorporate into a patient's everyday life. Looking at the next self-management tool, the smart garment. So traditional garments that are on the market, and they work well, they're fine. There's certainly improvements to be made, but it's difficult to know how much compression the patient is providing, which area are we providing compression to. So there's not a lot of specifics there, and it can make treatment challenging. So the goal behind this smart garment is that we're providing, again, specificity behind amount of compression to which areas with these built-in sensors within the garment. So they're going to more accurately monitor changes in swelling in real time, be able to better track wear time and provide feedback to the patients and ultimately their healthcare team as well. So we can help pick up on those changes earlier and better personalized treatment. Next slide, please. So what we are looking from all of you, the lymphatic community, your input is vital. We have a real opportunity to shape how this technology is being developed. So with the interviews, we're conducting voice sessions, Jill and I as the Discovery Duo. So giving you all the opportunity to share your journey, your pain points, what's working, what's not, what would you like to see different? What does your daily routine entail? Everybody is so different and we have so much to learn from you all that we can communicate back to the Lymphatech team. In conjunction with that, doing a survey, the online survey that will help give us, overarching issues in care, understanding again those pain points that you're dealing with as a clinician, as a patient, as a caregiver, and ultimately using this input to better drive that technology. If you are interested, scanning the QR code there or using the email there, impact@lymphatechtechnology.com. We would be so honored to work with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Thank you to all of our 8 teams. 8 bold approaches. I wanted you to really get a sense that these are patients or caregivers that are standing shoulder to shoulder with every one of our teams. And so let's give our Glide Discovery Duos a round of appreciation with some yes. Thank you all. You are volunteering your time and you are making the difference. I also want you to notice something about this picture here. These aren't 8 teams working in separate corners. This is what we call our active task force, another acronym, Accelerating Clinical Technology Innovation for Value and Efficiency, where our Glide and Light duos all come together as one community. For a field that spent generations siloed and starved, this collaboration may be one of the most important breakthroughs of all. So thank you, ARPA-H, for supporting our Discovery Duos. And it's not just these teams. Let's zoom out and you begin to see the full scale of what we are building. Because this is what we're really building, an entire toolkit of lymphatic medicine. And it goes well beyond Glide. Right now, our team is working with 41 other teams that are working across this portfolio. Glide, Light, Emerging Health Innovators, Sprint for Women's Health, and our small business programs, all pointed at the same goal, guys. Look at the breadth from medtech, therapeutics, health tech, biotools. Now we are going to have new imaging and contrast agents, regenerative and cell therapies, devices that will restore flow and are specific to the lymphatic system, even down to diagnostics using a lymphatic on a chip. Every one of these is a piece that never existed before, and for the first time, they're all being built at once. This is what it looks like to stand up an entire field of medicine on purpose, in parallel. And to show you just how fast it's moving, I want to turn to the program built to make the invisible visible, Light. This is ARPA-H's mission, delivering health breakthroughs in years, not decades. That's not a slogan. It's the standard we hold ourselves at ARPA-H to. My teams, my performers will tell you so. And I can't think of a better way to prove it than to hand the mic over to the people that are living it. So it is my great pleasure and honor to turn things over to Dr. Sah-Hee Cook from our Light program at Weill Cornell, who is working alongside her bridge, her partner, Alexa, who briefed us earlier. Together, this duo is driving some of the most exciting work in lymphatic genetics and biomarkers. And our bridge will quickly share with you just how far our Light teams have come just since March. Soo-Hee, over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. As Kim mentioned, I'm part of Dr. Alicia Luvo's team at Weill Cornell, focusing more on the biomarkers side than the diagnostic side, which is sort of the Glide's wheelhouse. And I am partnered with Alexa, who you heard from earlier. So some of the slides you saw about recruiting for the voice sessions, I think were really informative. For us, we are at the part where we're starting to think about the voice sessions and what we want from them. So really our focus, and a lot of the different Discovery Duo teams on the Light project have different focuses, but Alexa and I are interested in engaging patients and patient representatives and patient groups as active participants in clinical trials, and understanding why some of the patients may be hesitant to participate in clinical trials, so we can address some of those things. And then on the other side, we're working with physicians, physician scientists, providers, and clinicians in order to really enable them to better engage these patients on the opposite side. So in the thought that that will also increase engagement in clinical trials. And so I think one thing that Kim asked me to think about to speak to you guys today is what's something my Discovery Duo partner helped me see that I couldn't have seen on my own. There's something that Kim, I always like her terminology. She refers to as like a diagnostic odyssey. And so speaking with Alexa and other patients and patient advocacies have given me the perspective of how far patients often have to go to get their diagnosis, much less start thinking about therapeutics, but just to get a diagnosis. So Alexa has told me a lot about her journey. It was like a family friend that started her on her path to diagnosis. I know Veronica talks about how she was diagnosed by a billboard. So I think on our side, we think about our discovery process being at the bench, looking at mechanisms and molecules and things like that. But I've come to understand that patients have their own sort of discovery path as well, where they're having to really advocate for themselves and understand how to get a diagnosis at all. And so I think in a way, we have a really bilateral process where we're engaging both with patients and clinicians. And then I think there will be really bilateral benefits where everyone involved ends up benefiting. So the voice sessions, we're really excited to delve into those. We're really excited to be involved. And I think that this is bringing a perspective to our science that is not been integrated. We've sort of had a closed feedback loop for many, many years where basic scientists don't integrate that knowledge. And so we're excited to see what comes of it when we're like allowed or encouraged to do that.
Amazing. Sahi, thank you. I want everyone to know that she did this for us last minute. Late last night, I texted her, well, I emailed and said, can you please fill in? And she was on it. So thank you. And you're such a beautiful, articulate speaker. Just think about how far we've come in just a few months. And so I want to finish up by thinking about some of the activities we've done. Back in April, we brought all of our Discovery Duos together in Washington, D.C., alongside the Lymphatic Education and Research Network, who have advocated tirelessly for this entire community for years. And it was because of Learn that we had the extraordinary honor of having Miss Kathy Bates in the room with us. And I want to tell you what that was really like. It was uplifting in a way I struggled to put into words, because she didn't walk in as a celebrity. She walked in as a human being, one of us, and she shared her story. And here's what moved all of us, I believe, even though I'm talking for you, but moved me the most. When Kathy was first asked to be an ambassador, she wasn't even sure how she could help. And yet there she was on her own time, volunteering, opening up about the deepest, most personal struggles with her own health. Think about what that takes. Telling your story is not easy. It's raw. It's mentally exhausting. It means making yourself vulnerable again and again, just like our Discovery Duos here today shared. And Kathy Bates does it in any way, even who she is, for this community, for people she will never meet. So she left us that night with words of the poet Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. It's stuck. Our deepest struggles aren't only sources of suffering. They're the very openings that let wisdom and growth and light in. Those words have fueled me. On the hardest day of this mission, I hear Kathy's voice and I keep going. I hear all of the voices of all of you where we're in the trenches. Because here's the thing, there will always be naysayers. And to them, I say, forget them. We don't spend or need your energy there. We're not spending it there. We spend it on the curious skeptics, because those are the people who, once they see it, help us change medicine forever. And that's exactly what we're going to do. None of this would have existed without those who refused to let the lymphatic system be forgotten. So, to everyone on this call that have stayed through and were late, to learn and William Rapici, Bill, your passion and grit keep a light on this field when almost no one was looking. So thank you for everything, including bringing Kathy to us. So let me leave you, one more slide, with what the future looks like. In 5 years, clinicians will see a patient's lymphatic dysfunction on a scan. We're already there, and reach for a therapy designed to treat it. There will be novel diagnostics, early detection, real prevention, and measurable impact on the common diseases driven by lymphatic dysfunction. Heart failure, chronic kidney disease, Alzheimer's disease, cancer. And in 10 years, mark my words, lymphatic medicine will simply be medicine. As Rafid Fadul mentioned, it will be a new field in its own right, with routine assessment of lymphatic system in chronic disease. And we will have revolutionary treatments that target it directly. That's the movement we are building, from invisible to inevitable, and it only happens if we build it together. So from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of our Discovery Duos, to everyone in this room, our commission colleagues for sticking out with us and coming to this event, our Glide and Light Discovery Duos, and every patient and family who has trusted us with this mission. Thank you for being a part of the lymphatic community. You are the reason a system that was ignored for generations is finally having its moment. And here's how each of you can help. A call to action. Here's my ask, and it's for every person listening. Whether you are a patient or caregiver, living this every day, a provider or clinician who sees the signs in your practice and is ignoring it, a researcher, faculty member, teacher, or mentor shaping the next generation. Whether you come from a different medical discipline entirely, cardiology, neurology, oncology, immunology, or whether you're in industry or government, this movement needs you. It needs all of us. I ask of you to look about lymphatics. Search it up. Bring your tools, your students, and your voice to this problem. If you want to get involved, reach out to us. I might not answer right away because I'm busy, but man, I will get to you. Scan the QR codes on your screen to join the Discovery Duo survey and our voice sessions. Be a voice. That is the single best way to plug in, share your perspective, and help shape what comes next. Because, like you heard some of our Discovery Duos today, the lymphatic system can no longer be an afterthought. Together, and it's together, we can make the invisible inevitable. Thank you, and let's get to work. Before I end, one more minute, because I could not have done any of this without my team. And I ask the team to show your faces for 1 minute, please. When I first pitched this to ARPA-H, I had called it Operation Bold. Today, that's exactly who we are, Team Bold. They have stuck it out with me thick and thin, hours upon hours. And we call ourselves Biotechnology Opportunities for Lymphatic Discovery. To Josh Hooks, our lymphatic guru, who knows the system inside out. To Jenny Gu, who somehow wears every hat we own: omics, genetics, AI, and computational biology, and the rare gift of speaking fluently across the government, industry, and academia. To June, our imaging and wearables lead, and quite possibly the most personable human you'll ever meet. He makes us smile, even when it's getting tough. And to our newest member, Anjali Nandel, whose expertise in cell and molecular biology genetics, and synthetic biology is already raising our game. These are our scientific engineering advisors. And finally, but not least, Ms. Maddie McQuaid, who is our business financial manager, who without, I couldn't understand a spreadsheet, get animal or human subject research where it needs to go, or keep myself organized. Thank you, team. This team that has turned audacious ideas into real problems day in and day out. I am endlessly grateful to each and every one of you. Bold by name, bold by nature, guys. So thank you. And with that, we just ask, please sign up, stay in touch. We promise that we will have more community conversations. I thank the people in the room right now that you're not seeing behind the scenes, our Compass team, Hillary Turner, our engagement team, Danielle Leach and Rob, I never can say your name right, Rob, Puglisi, to Benita, thank you, from the legislative department, and our IT Al, thank you for everything. It takes a village. If people have questions, reach out to us, use this QR code. We will be in touch. Thank you for sticking through this entire time, and be loud with us. Join the movement because we're not turning back. Thanks, everyone.